And yeah, FF16, you know, we just started. We're getting our gears in place. Everything's coming together. Not much to say until we get a little bit further into the game. But
I have some stuff to say now that you're a little further in the game.
But this is a nice little transition point.
So what I'm going to be doing, Woolie, is that before I ever talk about 16, I actually skimmed through your VOD so that I know like exactly where you're at.
Cheers, thank you.
The last part you're at is where this is totally apropos of nothing. What's up with Discount Ralph Fiennes as the innkeeper? What is up with that?
Do you mean Ralph Fiennes?
Ralph, that's how you say his name? Ralph Fiennes?
Ralph Fiennes, yes.
What is up with Discount Ralph Fiennes as the innkeeper? Because it's not Ralph Fiennes, but it's like, it's really close. It's like weirdly close. I don't know. It weirds me out.
I was not expecting to be so charmed by all of the dry wit coming off of these NPCs. Everyone you're talking to is full of a bunch of moxie. There's just dry British wit. There's Scottish moxie, you know, Irish cheekiness. There's a lot of that going on, and I appreciate it.
A lot of the British Isles just colorfulizing.
Not to include Ireland in that, but I do. I love the fact that the energy you get to as well is like, you know, I was describing to Reggie how like you walk up to NPCs in an RPG from years ago and they just say the thing that has to establish the town you're standing in. Yeah. Oh man, it sure has sucked ever since the guards took over, you know. But like no,
blimey, the vineyard's got lots of wasps on the grapes.
But here yeah, but like here you're getting, you know, lots of fun little personality, and you know, if someone says, "Hey, Woolie, RPGs have been like this for the last couple years. Where have you been?" Then the answer is unfortunately in the dark. But I fucking love
I think of one RPG that's exactly like this
for sure. Well, so I know that based on like from what I've heard about WoW as well, like MMOs like have a duty to make charming NPCs because everyone has to interact with them constantly.
Yeah. That's accurate.
Millions of people are going to be talking to you. They better be interesting to talk to.
They will judge you. They will remember that weird guy that is. They'll remember that the Conjurers Guild in Gridania is a pile of shit because there's a fucking mom outside going, "Please heal my child," and they're going, "No, the fucking forest spirits don't like your child. Too bad. Let them die." And you're like, "Wow, Gridania is like a fucking awful fucking place. Don't start there."
But yeah,
yeah, 16. I have a couple things to talk about 16. First, after Ralph Fiennes, not Ralph Fiennes, but Ralph Fiennes. The further I go into the game, I keep running into. I described the Pepsi Man situation to you last week. Yeah, to you and Gene, in which the 14 influence is like obvious and hilarious, but confusing. The further I go into it, the more structural I've discovered that it is. So I saw that you did the little forest section where, you know, you fought like the ninja right at the end of it as the mini boss. Those are done. Those like set piece sequences are like very, very discreet, and you'll run into like, you know, I don't know, a dozen. I've done like 5, right? And it was like, oh, it's a big action set piece. This is where the money is happening. Right, and you'll fight a bunch of guys, and you'll fight a little mini boss, and you'll fight a bunch of guys, and I'm looking at them, and I'm going through them like, wait a second. I get the flyby of the area, and then I fight a bunch of trash guys for 2 fights. Then I fight the mini boss. Then I fight 2 packs of trash, and then the mini boss, and then I fight 2 packs of trash, and then the big boss that has bespoke music, and I'm like. And I'm looking at the set pieces, and I'm like, oh, I have actually already done these. All of them. Like, they all map one-to-one to existing dungeons.
I'm surprised that upon beating the ninja, he didn't drop a 1-month free pass to Final Fantasy 14.
You mean the ninja that's using, like, the moveset that the 14 ninja uses?
That's the ninja I'm talking about, yes.
He even has like the same 3-hit combo. Like it's like hilarious how like you just get to see like, oh, this is where the Final Fantasy 14 guy did his thing, and this is where DMC5 man added added his thing into it.
It's almost like the game is basically just like, hey, have you been paying attention to this big popular thing that's been happening recently? No, well, here you go. Mainline FF, you know.
For your personal experience, you will have a actually pretty decent ballpark about how 14 feels as a game by the time you're done with this, all the way down to like the way the hideaway functions.
Okay, going back to the hub and doing all your cleanup shit and coming back out there. Yeah, I mean, that's like the idea of not going from town to town, which is the FF way, but
you still are, but you're going back to your main town.
But and that's not usually the way that goes, right? Like, you know, I mean, I guess
usually you're a pretty solid progression. You're snaking through the world and going to different places.
Yeah, and like, oh, driving and getting back to the car is you know, like the way that the last game went. But that's what the CBU 3 knows how to do, I suppose.
CBU 3 also has like and you've seen just enough of it to start to feel it. They have a really, really, really strict way they design the flow of their game, which is setup, busy work, money, busy work, new setup.
Okay.
Like that is the structure of every single thing in the entire game.
Okay. Busy work related to the money, and then busy work post money.
Will predate and follow the big money.
The big money. Okay.
And then the setup will be a minor money.
Okay.
And that just keeps happening over and over, and it's like funnier and funnier every time it happens to me.
Well, I mean, you know, as someone who, again, is immune to most breadcrumb game designs, money is a very attractive incentive that will lead me towards you. So, yeah, sure.
The other thing that I want to talk about, and I don't know if you've started to feel it yet, because the iconic challenge wasn't super far into the game, but it did give you a lot of stuff that would take a while to get into the game.
Yes, it did.
Like, it takes a good long while before you get 3 icons. And I have been running into an issue, and as far as issues go, it's pretty minor. But I have none of the assists on, and I chose the action-focused difficulty, and nothing is a threat in this game. Nothing. I have done one encounter in which I died, and it was an optional super boss, and then I beat it on my second try handily. And it is causing like a really violent disconnect. And the only thing I can compare to now for you is the battle with Phoenix. The battle with Phoenix is like Phoenix for Zifrit in the intro, and then the second intro is this enormous, massive, mega spectacle that is a pretty easy Panzer Dragoon level.
Sure.
Right? The complexity of the iconic battles is increasing linearly. Like, each one gives you more stuff to do. So I recently fought Titan, which you saw in a lot of the promotional material for the game. Titan's the biggest one. It is the most epic confrontation I have ever seen. It is lavish beyond compare, and Titan couldn't hit me. I think Titan hit me 4 times, and one of those was me jumping the gun on a QTE and hitting the wrong QTE button. I used like 1 potion equivalent in that fight.
Yeah.
And like the whole time I'm like laughing and continuously saying like, Titan, come on. What do you got for me? Come on. And then going through 5 phases and being like, oh, like no pressure at all. Like no pressure.
So,
and
yeah,
it's kind of bumming me out.
I suspect that this is a very clear, conscious decision, since it's for a lot of people, their first time driving the supercar, right?
Right. Makes perfect sense.
Yes, like they've been revving you up to this a little bit with, again, previous entries, but now it is you are behind the wheels of a fucking full speed fucking thing, and they don't want to immediately fucking scare you away with it, right? So you can do
totally
anything
get that.
and you can go hard, but the challenge doesn't meet up to the difficulty expected of character action, because it's so many people's first time going
absolutely
into
that
this.
makes perfect sense. On the flip side to that, I'm going through like you know, I did like a section, I think it was the section leading up to Titan, and there's a mini boss. I'm like, okay, I'll fight the mini boss. I like no hit killed the mini boss in like sub 300 seconds, and like I didn't feel anything. I treated it like a dummy. Right?
Okay.
And I'm well aware of the reality that a lot of people haven't played a lot of character action games, or if at all, and that this new action focus is like a really strong shift. But there are like a huge and impressive and appreciated wide variety of things that you can do to tone the game down. You have story difficulty and action difficulty. You have a wide variety of accessories that will just remove mechanics and automatically do them. There's the auto combo. There's the auto dodge. The auto dodge one is by far the most busted. There's the auto dog one, which I'm tempted to kind of use sometimes because it just frees up a button.
But it's,
you can bring that game's difficulty from pretty easy down to a 3-year-old could totally do it, bro.
If you are like, I like Final Fantasy because I get to stop, think, and use the menus, you can put a lot of things on to help you breathe.
You can drag it down. But aside from there's nothing that I can do to the game to make it any more difficult. And I really mean there's nothing I can do to it. Because you could say, well, Pat, don't upgrade your gear, right? Or don't do this. And it's like, that doesn't make it any harder. It just makes it take slightly longer to kill the enemies. This game has the most good dodge ever.
It's incredible. And you get such great rewards for using it. So
you get more later. The dodge becomes improved at a later time.
I totally can see how that's all set up. Counterpoint, to some degree, though. I know that 14 is a game where you're playing the super hard challenges and you have to have a team of coordinated people, and if you don't have everyone doing their job, you fucking wipe. But when's the last time you played a single-player RPG that really challenged you outside of the super bosses? Because I think knowing how to play them well is a skill that you develop over time, just like character action, and you kind of breeze through the average Final Fantasy game anyways.
There's stuff in P5 that kicked my ass on normal, and I had to do a couple times.
Yeah, but like there are definitely, there's little moments, little challenges that like might pop up here and there, and I know, as for me, there's a lot of like RPG knowledge I don't have that I'm like, oh, I'll hit a wall or something and be like, oh, whoa, that boss kicked my ass, let me take a second try at it. But overall, I feel like I haven't really struggled a ton as someone who is already missing a lot. If you are familiar with FF as a franchise intimately, and you already kind of know like more or less how to handle the threats, you know, going into the typical turn-based RPG, you're already kind of breezing through it and just experiencing the story to some degree. And the super bosses become the challenge, you know? So it doesn't feel like this is super out of line with how it usually is anyway.
I disagree because in your regular-ass RPG, you know, outside of games that have, like, miss statistics, like, you are interacting with the enemy. Right? Like the enemy takes their turn and they hit you and maybe you heal it up or whatever. The way 16 is functioning currently is that most enemies aren't interacting with me at all. They're just like random battles.
They're attacking the party, you mean?
No, I mean they're dead before they get to interact with me. Like random battles in 16 from the 1/3 mark onwards become like combo trials. They become vaporized. like instantaneously. And like I'll use Titan as an example. They've showed a lot of Titan. Titan did not hit me with a single punch in the entire encounter that I fought him. The enemy was functionally not interacting with me at all. And when you hunts, which is, you know, notorious monsters, that's the optional like harder content. The way that stuff is balanced, and what killed me is me running into an enemy that I beat it, and well, I got it down to 1% health, only to find out that a low health move it does instantly kills you.
Okay,
and I
little
didn't
gimmick.
Dodge right, and it killed me instantly.
Right.
And then on my second attempt, I did the same thing again and just beat it. So the way that difficulty seems to increase along a lot of the harder enemies in that game is to just juice their numbers.
Yeah.
But it's still really easy to avoid all their attacks.
So I would liken your skill level as someone who's like, yo, I'm looking for DMD. Where is it? Right? Like you have the genre of character action in your blood. So someone who has RPGs to that degree as well is probably able to breeze through a lot of what the game is supposed to put in your way as like a plot challenge, you know? If you find broken builds and ways to protect your party, you know, float into the air and cause a quake, or whatever you do with your blue mages, you know, I know people like find ways to game the system and do amazing things with it, get builds going. I feel like mastery of RPGing will result in similar crushing of a traditional RPG in the same way that you would crush a game that is not presenting you with Devil May Cry level challenges, right?
You're completely right.
But
and that's why I appreciate for those people that Persona, the Pathfinder games, Baldur's Gate, etc., have difficulty options for those people.
And this is why the action game here would be better to go, hey, if you happen to be coming into this and, hey, you already know this genre, we can rise to that occasion and meet you there. And if it doesn't have that option, it should be able to, yes. Persona already definitely has you go from like you start out with like 8 different difficulties to pick from, right? Like you scale from absolutely just like walk through the story to
there's very easy,
go fuck yourself.
Normal, hard, very hard, and then insane,
extreme or whatever. Yeah. So like the answer here is that the game should have the ability to catch up with anybody who's already familiar.
I'm just fairly confused because you, much like FF7 Remake, you unlock a new difficulty upon beating the game, which is remixed because you're coming in with every skill that you've earned over the normal game. And talking to people that played it, it's like, yeah, it's a little harder, and then it plateaus out because you get everything you need, and it's like it's just kind of weird. The game has like from fairly easy to really easy, but really nothing. You can't raise it.
Good question from Gazbang Gobbling over there. How does it compare to Strangers of Paradise?
Strangers of Paradise is a really good example to compare it to. Strangers of Paradise is, I would say, the level of an average action game in terms of difficulty. Okay. I played through it with mainly auto equipping my stuff and, you know, looking at what builds, you know, what skills I wanted to use. And there were some fights that I had to fight 5 to 10 times, and like, oh, that was a tough boss fight, and I beat it, and good. But if I wanted to, I could turn that shit down. I could turn it to baby mode. I could also, upon beating the game, expand it out to forever infinity difficulty like a psycho.
And that's Team Ninja, right?
Yeah.
That's Team Ninja doing what they do, approaching games the way they do, where they're coming from a legacy of like, no, we're trying to beat your ass, right? And then I think about how you know, when Nier as another Square game, right? But it's like, here's Platinum working with them to do the thing they do, and so like Nier is not the most challenging of character action games, you know, by comparison. But there's like a lot you can do to make it harder if you really, really want to. I think I guess the overall, this is Final Fantasy proper side of things is like resulting in them going, okay, we're mainly focused on this landing in everybody's hands and keeping it inviting to them, but I think teams that are, well, no, but if 14 has the hard difficulty, then anyway, incorporating extra.
Let me bring 14 into it for a second, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually talked about this very briefly right before we started, where it's like a lot of the fights in 16 feel like what the normal encounter would feel like in 14 if you didn't have 7 other people to babysit.
Right. Okay.
Right. And I think it was Chris Wolfhard, aka Mr. Fields, who responded with no. Because the AoEs in 14 will actually hurt you, whereas the AoEs in 16 will just kind of tickle a little bit.
You're reliant on people to heal you from damage that you're gonna be taking,
right?
Regardless, right?
It's 14 has had like a really, really, really long history of not knowing how hard to make the main campaign, because skill levels can vary so wildly. There's been a lot of drama over. I remember when Stormblood came out, the final boss of Stormblood's campaign was actually like a challenge. Like you had to do stuff to fight it, and their forums were just like awash with furious complaints. Yo, why am I not allowed to play the rest of the game? I pay $15 a month for my subscription. Why are you gatekeeping me out of the end game because of this boss? And in particular, the best quest in Endwalker, and I think the best quest in 14 is called Out from the Cold, I think it's called, was kind of hard. And there were so many complaints about it being hard that they nerfed that encounter into the ground, and now it is no longer... So In From the Cold is the name of the quest. And they nerfed that encounter over and over and over until now it is no longer fun. It is now a cool quest instead of the best thing in the entire game.
There is definitely something that narratively, breaks when you are into the story, but like the challenge isn't there on dramatic moments. And, you know, it's important to be able to make sure that people that have the skill to handle these things would be feeling the tension.
It feels like I'm fighting Frieza on Namek as SSJ4 Gogeta.
Right.
And like that has an appeal. That definitely has like a fucking like, ooh yeah, I'm gonna beat his motherfucking ass. But like it's so dissonant.
Right? And the thing is, there was a moment I remember where we both realized as we were playing it that like I was like, oh shit, you can use a potion on the ground in hit stun at any time.
Oh, you can use it while you're being like knocked up into the air and being juggled by something. Like
in the middle of a combo, you can heal. So it's like, oh, like there's not even like an Estus risk.
No, it is kind.
You know, so like that means that you can afford like way more room for error as well. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a unique situation to be in. You know, and I feel as if it's when a moment like this occurs where it's like you just happen to be over prepared for what is a new challenge for a lot of people, you know?
So I think the last thing I want to say, I don't think it's over preparedness. I think it is that enemies are too slow. I think the average enemy in 16 is too slow on their wind up. Like, you know, everybody winds up to attack. They're like really slow. You did the iconic challenge, right? So you fought like human Benedicta. I think that is the fastest enemy I have fought in the entire game.
I see.
And as a result, I'm just like watching them wind up, and the only times I feel like I get hit are when I'm having the Guitar Hero on easy problem, in which I'm dodging so early that I'm getting hit at the end of my dodge.
I mean, the situation you just described in 14, where the willingness to nerf it down and kind of like make it less fun, based on the average person feeling it was not fun for them as it was too hard, is it's an interesting problem to have, I guess, and I suppose like the idea here is New Game Plus brings your ability to, you know, You said like you keep your shit, you go back in.
You keep every single ability,
and then everyone
in
gets new moves and the ability to go harder as well.
And they remix the enemy placement, so you're gonna get like mid game and end game stuff in the beginning.
But like the first run through, there's a limit to how hard the game can get, and which again DMC like in that regard. But I guess like the question is what is New Game Plus gonna look like when you do everything you can to make it its hardest, and will that potentially be satisfying or not?
I think like my issue, I guess my biggest issue is like you can't make the game harder. You can only make it take longer.
Okay.
Right? Like I can tone down my damage. Like you're trying to figure out how to do the most damage during stagger windows or whatever. But like bosses that aren't hitting me now are not going to hit me later.
Incoming damage is going up is usually what would be a factor, but if the speed and the ability to react and parry it is just all negated, then yeah.
Like you messed around with Titan's block in the iconic challenge, right?
It's fucking hype. Yep.
Yeah, it's really good and it's really reliable. Like the windows on that parry are wide.
And that's kind of that's where the remix to the boss patterns and enemy patterns becomes really important. And you don't want to just throw a blitz in there and go fuck you,
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So overall, like I'm loving the game, and I'm very much enjoying its narrative. I think it's fantastic, and I think it's interesting, and I think Clive's tits are huge. I think Clive is about as like skanky as a male main character as we have ever seen in anything. You don't have the costume. Eventually he'll get the box art Dracula outfit. The one where he looks like a Dracula with the red shirt. Like his heaving tits are out. His tight ass leather pants make noise when you run past the camera.
There are some aggressively slutty dudes in Grand Blue, but they're not main characters.
Right. No, like Clive is like look at my tits. Look at them. I can feed you with these. And you're like, whoa, Clive. Whoa, calm
I
down.
did see artwork of him standing there, and then I believe Jill was just watching and just kind of like, they're so big from the side.
Like he is definitely the main character of a Final Fantasy game. It's impressive.
Okay.